Welcome to this week's edition of Outdoors Online, a weekly webcast produced by the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. I'm your host, Tom Jensen. Believe it or not, we have a hunting season right around the corner. And by right around the corner, I mean within probably 2 weeks. My guest this week is Mike Szymanski. Mike is the head waterfowl biologist with Game and Fish. We're going to talk about the early Canada goose season. Mike, first let's talk about the season itself, when it is, and why we have it.
Yeah, the season starts here August 15th, so it's actually, I guess as far as technical terms go, part of it's a management take, that would be the portion in August, and then the part that's in September is a hunting season. And we have this, well, we've had it since about 2000, where we put it in place because we were having issues with Canada goose and crop depredation, and we were really to the point with our populations where we thought that we could start providing some extra hunting opportunity.
It's kind of similar to the spring conservation season on snow geese.
It's a little bit. The management take especially is like that, where it's a special management order from the Fish and Wildlife Service to allow us to hunt outside of federal framework dates. So yeah, I mean, as time's gone on, we've got more and more Canada geese available, and more opportunity available to hunters to help out with the problem or problems that we have. We are a fair bit above population objectives. So we have been increasing bag limits and affording hunters as much opportunity as we think we can with those birds.
You mentioned Canada geese. It is for Canadas only.
That's right, just Canada geese.
Several years ago, Mike, we moved the early season up about a month till the middle of August. I don't know if you'd call it move the dates up, because actually what we did was just add hunting opportunities.
We actually added the days. There were it was a complete addition of opportunity to put those days in August. Since they were management take days, they don't actually subtract from anything else, where, you know, if we were moving season dates around or adding days to a season, we could be potentially taking stuff off of an end date or something like that. But
right.
When we added days,
we
15,
should mention we only get so many days
right.
a year from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to have a goose season.
And we do use all of our Canada goose hunting days, even with the addition of the days in August that start the 15th of August.
I know last year we had a very wet spring. Farmers were late getting in the fields. They were late harvesting. This year, almost the same thing. We did have some wet weather and things. Is it a problem for hunters to find harvested fields to hunt in this time of year?
Some years it sure can be. A little bit depends on what producers plant in a given area. Some areas tend to be more corn and soybeans, and some areas get more sunflowers, things like that. But you know, this year driving around, it looks like there was a lot of small grains planted, and those are actually coming off. They're starting to come off now.
Right, they've ripened up a lot.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Several years ago, Mike, we increased the daily limit. It's 15 now. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, back in 2012, we bumped it up to 15. The year prior, we went to 8, and immediately after went to 15, just thinking, you know, we really have to get on these birds. We were seeing some phenomenal production around the state where we knew we weren't getting our arms around them, and we figured, well, it's an early season opportunity. It's all that guys are going after that time of year. Maybe we can get a few more birds in the harvest doing that, and it seems to work so far. I mean, it's one of those deals where you recognize your average hunter isn't going out and shooting 15, but there are groups of guys that are certainly capable of doing that.
Guys that are doing it right.
A lot of the time. And you know, some guys, all they do is hunt Canada geese, so they're very specialized for it, they're very good at it, and they can get their daily bag limit each time.
Do they use special techniques or anything this time of year? I mean, obviously decoying would be fairly successful, but
I think the techniques are pretty similar. You know, guys are still generally decoying in fields. There's very few people that decoy on water, and part of that's because you tend to get more out of the harvest if you hunt geese in fields and let them go back to their water and rest and things like that. But I would say the techniques are generally similar.
Now, non-residents are welcome to hunt, correct?
Absolutely.
The days that they hunt don't count against their allotted time that they can hunt during the fall.
The licensing requirements for both residents and non-residents changed a few years ago for the early Canada Goose season, where residents now need to buy a $5 Canada Goose permit for the early season, and they also need their small game and general game habitat stamps. Then after September 1st, all hunters over the age of 60 and older need to have a federal waterfowl stamp, and everybody throughout the season needs to have HIP registration. Non-resident hunters just need to have their $50 special early season license for Canada geese. And that's kind of good because it gets them away from the zone requirements of the regular season license, doesn't count against their regular season days. So it really allows people to spread out a little bit if they want.
Are there any special regulations that hunters in general have to follow? I know the spring conservation season for snow geese, they allow electronic calls, they allow unplugged shotguns, not the same for this season.
Right, we haven't put in any of those extra abilities for, or loosening regulations, I guess, for taking Canada geese. Plug shotguns are required. No electronic calls can be used.
All right, Mike, thanks. If you plan to hunt during the early Canada Goose season, here are a few things you need to know. First of all, licenses, as Mike mentioned. Residents need a $5 early Canada Goose license and a general game and fish habitat license. Also, residents 16 and older need a small game license. Non-residents need that $50 early Canada Goose license, and the license is valid statewide without counting against the 14-day regular season license. A federal duck stamp is also required beginning September 1st, and registration in the Harvest Information Program, or HIP, is also required. You can get the proper licenses at the Game and Fish website at gf.nd.gov or call 800-406-6409. The season starts on Saturday, August 15th and runs through September 15th, except in the Missouri River Zone, where the season ends September 7th. The early Canada Goose season has a daily limit of 15 and a possession limit of 45. For Mike Szymanski and the rest of the staff here at North Dakota Game and Fish, thanks for joining us for Outdoors Online. We'll see you again next week.